Hello.
Hello, we are waiting on one more member who has confirmed yes, member Michael Jackson, and then we will have enough members present for a quorum.
Great. I'm just here to your cover sheet, so I wasn't sure. So, but I better just say I'm here. So, thank you.
Okay. Yep, member Clens just showed up, so we have enough members to begin the meeting.
You're still waiting for Michael Jackson?
Yes.
Okay, but you have enough to go forward. All right. Let's give him one more minute and then we'll go. All right, well, get started then. I will call to order the Monday, May 10th, 2021 MPO meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call, please.
Thank you. Member Freitag.
Present.
Member Miller.
Sorry, present.
It's okay. Member Jackson. Member Marshik.
Here.
Member Merkline.
Here.
Member Benson.
Here.
Member Johnson.
Here.
Member Williams.
Here.
Member Sweeney. Member Arndt. Member Schneider. Member Clens.
Here.
Member Gunn. Member Meyer. Member Flottmeyer.
Here.
Member Welch. We have 9 members present and a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody taking time today to meet with us. Our first item will be the approval of our meeting minutes from the March 8th, 2021 meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve in a second unless somebody has comments on it.
So moved by Benson.
Second, Freitag.
Got a motion by Paul Benson, second by Mark Freitag to approve. All in favor? I guess we better do roll call.
All right. Member Freitag.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Marshik.
Yes.
Member Merkline.
Yes.
Member Benson.
Yes.
Member Johnson.
Yes.
Member Williams.
Yes.
Member Clens.
Yes.
Member Flottmeyer.
Yes.
Thank you
That
all.
is 9 ayes. The ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Next item will be new business. Item number 1, approve amendment to the 2021-2026 Transportation Improvement Program, also known as TIP. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Chair. Before I continue, I just want to confirm that all members can see a slide in front of them entitled Transportation Improvement Program.
Yes.
All right, very good. In recognition that we have a few new members for the program, of the policy board, excuse me, I just want to take a couple seconds to run over what the Transportation Improvement Program is. What we call the TIP is a program schedule of any transportation improvement within an urbanized area, which is the cities of Milton, Janesville, and parts of the 5 surrounding townships that are funded with any federal, state assistance, or federal assistance for the next 4-year period. Included within that also are performance measures. Excuse me, the slideshow seems to have disappeared for me. Let me just open that one more time.
In the gap, I will note that Mr. Michael Jackson has joined the meeting.
Thank you. So noted. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Thank you. Picking up where we left off, the TIP also includes performance measures in which we need to evaluate how in the region measures such as safety, traffic congestion, pavement conditions, and transit asset managements are performing in comparison with the rest of the state against targets that are set by the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration. The nature of this amendment is adding another such a performance target, which is from the Public Transit Agency Safety Plan for the Janesville Transit Administration, otherwise known as PTASP. These targets are pulled directly from the plan, which was adopted by the City Council in 2020. The deadlines for MPOs to adopt these PTASP targets is July 21st, 2021. The targets are presented as follows, and this template is illustrated within the PTASP as well as by FTA, Federal Transit Administration guidance. These weigh against a baseline and a 2021 target, as you can see. Injuries and safety events are very broad categories, I should note. This can include anything as minor as a trip, slip, or fall, or any potential damage to equipment on JTS property or involving a JTS employee. So 7 and 6 of those occurred respectively, and the 2021 target is to decrease those number of events that happen within a year. System reliability, that's a technical term that we have to include as not applicable because it only applies to transit systems that have more than one mode of transportation. So the recommended action from the MPO Technical Advisory Committee's review is that the MPO Policy Board adopt Resolution 2020-02 amending the Transportation Improvement Program. And at this point, staff can take any questions or comments regarding this item.
Does anyone have any questions of staff on this item? Any questions of staff? Seeing none, we would entertain a motion to approve.
Freitag, move approval.
Got a motion to approve by Mark Freitag,
Second by
Williams
Benson.
will second.
second by Paul Williams. Okay, we have a motion, Freitag, second Williams, to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none or hearing none, call for the vote, please. Thank you.
Member Freitag.
Aye.
Aye. Member Miller?
Yes.
Yes. Member Jackson? Member Jackson?
We muted?
Yes. Member Marshak?
No. I said yes.
Yes.
Member Markline?
Yes.
Yes. Member Benson?
Yes.
Yes. Member Johnson?
Yes.
Yes. Member Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Member Clens?
Yes.
Yes. Member Flotmeyer?
Yes.
Yes. The ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone's help on that. Our second item will be adoption of the 2020-2050 long range, you can guess, transportation plan, LRTP. Once again, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chair. And again, today is hopefully the conclusion of an approximately 18-month update process that began in fall of 2019 for the 2020 to 2050 long-range transportation plan. Some of this may be review for some members, but it is to catch up some of our new members on the policy board up to speed. So thank you for your patience for any of you for whom this may be review. Since the Technical Advisory Committee recommended the approval of this document, a 30-day comment period per our public participation standards was held and concluded. We did not receive any additional comments. We also incorporated any additional comments from any of our partner agencies, including federal and state agencies, have been incorporated through what we call the environmental consultation process. Any comments of those are included in the appendix and incorporated within the document itself. After an adoption of this plan today, the plan will be forwarded to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, and the Federal Transit Administration for their administrative approval. After that, the federal legislation states that we must update this plan every 5 years, so the next update would presumably take place in 2025 and with an ultimate adoption in 2026. A brief summary of the long-range transportation plan, per its name, 2020 to 2050. This plan accounts for a 30-year plan horizon. And the elements include 4 different modes of transportation that intended to be all-encompassing, which include freight, transit, streets and highways, and a standalone bicycle and pedestrian plan, as well as an associated background and purpose and environmental justice analysis that we perform in-house on the entire plan. More on that a little later within this presentation. The plan begins with the background and purpose. Most of this was covered in the overview report that the policy board approved in 2019. This again reviews the legal foundations of the long-range transportation plan, which is empowered by the federal government through the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, also known as the FAST Act from 2015. This includes an overview of the demographic, growth, and land use assumptions that drive the long-range transportation plan, relying on population projections developed by the state of Wisconsin and land use projections developed by each of the municipalities within their comprehensive land use plans. Additionally, since the last plan update, this background purpose gives a bit more elaboration and detail on environmental and climate factors on transportation assets. The reason for this is that the FAST Act is set to expire this year and will be replaced by a set of new guiding federal legislation. All versions of this detail resilience to natural hazards and potential programs that might address those topics. So this plan attempts to address those as appropriate, including within this section. And as a reminder, all transportation projects that use any federal or state funds must be included within the long-range transportation plan. So for example, the construction going on just outside City Hall here at West Milwaukee Street. That project first came into being within planning efforts, both in a rise in the long-range transportation plan. From there, it moved on to the transportation improvement program and eventually moved to the construction that we see today. Every single project that receives any sort of state or federal funding in the Janesville urbanized area goes through that process. All long-range transportation plans for MPOs across the country must follow 4 metropolitan planning factors as listed above, and each element addresses the 10 factors in detail. I won't go into any of these in detail, but they will include such as system preservation, accessibility, safety, protection, enhancement of the environment, enhancing travel and tourism, etc. And again, these are all goals that are set by federal legislation and addressed within this plan. The first of the 4 elements is the freight element, which was presented to the policy board in February of 2020, just before the pandemic began. This was a relatively minor update to the freight element, which was presented in 2015, although it presents more updates to the inventory and synthesizes with other local planning efforts, particularly the Centennial Industrial Park redevelopment plan for the former General Motors site within the regional context of freight. Also, although the MPO and local governments are comparatively uninvolved in freight planning as compared to the other 3 transportation modes, there's been a great deal of statewide planning efforts, including the state freight plan that was adapted in 2018. And this plan attempts to take the future industrial growth areas as projected in our comprehensive land use plans and some of these future transportation investments into this regional context. The second part of this plan is the standalone bicycle and pedestrian plan, which was updated over summer of last year. This builds upon the strong plan that was already as a part of the 2015 long-range transportation plan, but then further emphasizes various complete street-style design concepts and considerations for the plan, as well as further emphasis on intersection safety, since that's another expected emphasis area in future federal legislation on which the region should be competitive as possible for grant funding. We also streamlined the on-street recommended routes within this plan. So any portrayed on-street recommended route is not recommended for a particular facility type in and of itself. Anything that can be seen may be recommended for something as simple as signage to something as involved as an on-street bike lane. However, it is up to the individual municipalities to decide on what that treatment should be. And the bicycle and pedestrian plan outlays what those treatments are. This plan also further develops and prioritizes proposed off-road trails. The recommended trails from last plan, we had great luck in grant funding and being able to install some of those trails, particularly as part of the Town Square project and the new trail that extends north through Schieffer Park. So this was a perfect opportunity for us to further refine our short-term and long-term visions for trails. Other highlights from the bicycle and pedestrian plan include a preliminary inventory of bike parking throughout the MPA, which is the Metropolitan Planning Area, as well as an inventory of bicycle and pedestrian crashes separated out by mode. So taking that topic into a bit further detail than we have in previous plans. Other topics in there that were not previously discussed in the 2015 plan include a level of traffic stress analysis, which is another way to assess the bikeability or non-bikeability of certain roads, as well as addressing other hot button issues that have risen in the past 5 years, such as the presence of electric scooters and bicycles within the bike network. To highlight, this portion of the plan was very heavily guided by a virtual public involvement effort, obviously virtual due to the pandemic, in which we utilized the software network social pinpoints to gauge the community in 4 ways. We asked residents in communities within the MPA to participate in either budget exercise, trail prioritization exercise, to comment on an interactive map, or to leave a general comment on improvements that could be made to the bicycle infrastructure network within the Metropolitan Planning Area. Overall, we received individual input from about 1,000 separate individuals in a planning area of about 71,000. So this was an overall, we would consider, successful planning effort that heavily guided trail prioritization and the fine-tuning of the future on-street network. After that, in the autumn, we moved on to complete the transit element. The purpose of this is to demonstrate a financial plan for the Janesville transit system to meet operational and capital needs across the next 30 years. And this plan identified the key policies, strategies, and issues facing transit within that time frame. A key note here, what the long-range transportation plan does not do in terms of transit is plan for route changes. There is a separate transit development planning process that takes place for that the MPO is involved in, but that is a separate process. The point of this element is to demonstrate financial constraint and responsible use of expected federal and state financial resources across the next 30-year time period. The fourth and final element, which is debatably the sort of the meat and potatoes of the plan, is the streets and highway summary, which identifies future major streets and highways projects, both for future roads and for the rehabilitation and maintenance of current roads, and maintains the eligibility of those roadways for federal funding. This plan also illustrates a detailed 30-year financial plan as to how transportation investments will be made, accounting for expected federal, state, and local funds throughout the 30-year planning horizon. The technical term for that is fiscal constraint, but we call it a financial plan overall to account for local sources as well. Compared to 2015, this plan does put an increased emphasis on pavement conditions, particularly as relates to vulnerable roadways to future flood events, which would be the most relevant natural hazard looking forward. Again, as I stated, in anticipation of future federal legislation, so that the region can be best positioned to take advantage of any future federal or state funding opportunities. A little bit about the process more in the streets and highway plan. For As a reminder, for a roadway project to be eligible to receive federal funding, typically through the Surface Transportation Program or Highway Safety Improvement Program, it must be programmed within the TIP. And in order to be in the TIP, a project must originate within the Long Range Transportation Plan. And projects are identified through a combination of factors, including their impact on projected congestion, which is determined through an LOS study, which conducted through the WISDOT Transportation Development Model. LOS stands for Level of Service, and that's graded on A through F scale, which is elaborated within the plan. These projects are further weighed by relative need, taking into account such factors as safety history, current pavement conditions, and future growth assumptions, as well as costs and the financial constraints that is expected. The last section of the plan is an environmental justice analysis of all the elements that we've previously covered here. So this identifies concentrated environmental justice populations, which is defined by a presidential executive order as low income and minority populations. And this is identified by what we consider to be statistically concentrated census block groups within the MPA of either of these populations. On advice from our federal partners, as well as an increased focus on the topic in the past 5 years, we have also identified blocks of what we would call mobility limited populations, which would include populations with a disability and populations with a concentration of senior citizens or persons aged 65 and above. Furthermore, this analysis examines all proposed projects and existing transportation amenities on these target populations and ensures that there is no disproportionate adverse impact on any of the populations, and that all proposed projects have a relatively equitable impact regardless of race, income level, mobility level, etc. And this has found that in the short term and for any project that is programmed, that is the case, that we satisfy the environmental justice requirements. After that, the MPO Technical Advisory Committee reviewed this on April 8th and recommended that the MPO Policy Board adopt Resolution 2020-03, which adopts the 2020 to 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan for the next 5 years. At this point, we would entertain any questions or comments or invitations for any further changes that the Policy Board would want to the Long Range Transportation Plan before moving on to this resolution.
Good. So is there any questions of staff on this? Hearing none, I'd like to thank the MPO staff and Mr. Brown for their hard work on putting this together. And I would entertain a motion for Resolution 2021-03.
Thank you, Chair. I do believe, however, members Benson and Johnson have their hands raised.
All right. I don't see anybody's picture here, so if
Okay.
they're raised, you may call on them in their order. Thank you.
Okay. I saw Member Benson first, so I'll call on Member Benson first question.
Thank you. No questions, just comments. Obviously, we've been going through this now for the better part of 2 years. I just wanted to point out a couple highlights that I saw that I think the city and the Metropolitan Review Board should be commended for. Number one was reaching those goals in the pedestrian and bicycle plan, specifically on sidewalks and bike trail. They were pretty ambitious goals. They maybe don't sound like it. I think it was reducing sidewalk gaps by 5% per year over the last 10 years and increasing bike trail or paved trail by 0.86 miles per year over that period, and both those goals were reached, as well as 100% of buses having bike racks. And I was very encouraged to see that we met all of those goals, and also excited about the short-term and long-term bicycle and pedestrian projects as well. I think we've really improved in our bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure the last few years, and I'm excited to see that continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Johnson.
Yes, thank you. There is one objective within the freight element which says, quote, minimize and or mitigate negative impacts of trucks on adjacent residential areas. Okay, so that's an objective. My question is, what about Main Street? Is there any consideration of what we can do about Main Street and the heavy and loud trucks that go down it? We council members do hear many complaints about Main Street, and I would like to know what if anything can be done about it, and why, if not, why not? Why can't we do anything about it?
Absolutely. I may lean on other staff on this call, and particularly Dwayne Sherrick or Paul Woodard on this, who may have a better answer to this, as that may be a more of a municipal solution rather than an MPO planning solution.
Sure, I can go ahead and answer that, Alexander. This is Paul Woodard, the Director of Public Works. We did look at that a few months ago, and I can forward to you, Councilperson Johnson, the analysis. We did look at alternatives to Main Street for a truck route, and there just really aren't any good options. But I can forward to the MPO Policy Board that study. There was a study done about over 10 years ago. I took that study and updated it just recently. So I will get that out to the MPO Policy Board, and it has all the detailed analysis of why Main Street has to be the truck route.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Anyone else? Seeing none, then we'll entertain a motion on Resolution 2021-03, adopting the 2020-2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan.
I'll move to adopt. Williams, I'll move to adopt.
Okay, got a motion by Paul
Freitag, second.
and Mark Freitag for second. Any other comments? Don't see any. Please call the roll there. Thank you.
Member Freitag.
Aye.
Aye. Member Miller.
Yes.
Yes. Member Jackson.
Aye.
Aye. Member Marshik.
Aye.
Yes. Oh, yes. Member Markline.
Yes.
Yes. Member Benson.
Yes.
Yes. Member Johnson.
Yes.
Yes. Member Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Member Clens.
Yes.
Yes. Member Flotmeyer.
Yes.
Yes. The ayes have it.
Great. Thank you very much. Our next item is communications from staff, if there are any.
There are. Thank you, Chair. In just a few weeks here, on May 25th and 26th, MPO staff will be conducting the biennial parking study of Janesville's downtown, which we do every other year on the odd year. City of Janesville has also submitted a grant application for the development of the Fisher Creek Trail, illustrated in that bicycle and pedestrian plan, running from Rockport Road to West Court Street, which is approximately 2/3 of a mile along a bike trail easement. Staff is beginning the preparation of the 2022 work program and transportation improvement program, so expect to hear a little bit more about that as the year moves forward. And one more announcement as of last week is that wayfinding signage along the Ice Age National Scenic Trail and the Peace Trails in the city of Janesville are complete. And that is a total of approximately 120 signs, including the one that you see pictured here, established as of last week. And other than that, that concludes.
That is, the policy board can expect And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any communications from our members? Any of our members need to communicate anything? I don't see any. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. The meeting is now adjourned at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.